just the one box. It's very oddly shaped, and the adhesive is particularly strong on this one. Oh, pull tab to open. Oh, that did it. Much easier. So, this is this week's anime. Not as spectacular as the last couple weeks, I know. But, hold with me here, because we've got Strike Witches 2. Still winning the war on pants. If you haven't guessed, they don't wear much clothes in this. I wonder. It says, put your copy of Strike Witches Season 1 right here. Which makes me wonder. I'm going to take this off. So this is a combination Blu-ray DVD. We've got 2 DVDs. And then 2 Blu-ray versions, yes. I'm looking for confirmation. And more images on the inside as well. It's a bit of a precarious situation. The insert looks like this, but yeah, I have it over here on the side. Sorry, just give me a minute to dig out this. The Blu-ray DVD combo release of Strike Witches 1. Which fits rather perfectly in here, just like so. So that would be this release of Strike Witches. The Blu-ray DVD combo. Next up, we've got Detroit Metal City. Something I've actually been rather curious about because the premise just sounds overall quite hilarious. It's about a death metal band of people who don't really like it but somehow ended up being in it, and I don't know. It just sounds all sorts of silly. And since it's music related, I want to watch that with my more musically inclined brother. And I think it rates well. And then finally we've got Mayo Chiki. 13 episodes, complete collection, 3 DVDs. I'm not even quite sure what this is about. It's English subtitled only. Actually, on that note, yeah, Detroit Metal City is too. But that's Sentai film works for you, occasionally doing that, right? So let's just take a peek inside. Here's that same advertisement. Then we've got 2 characters I don't know. Same. Well, there we go. It's not a big update. But we did finally get Strike Witches 2, which I believe had been delayed for quite a while. I guess very quickly on the non-anime front, I picked up Chronicle, specifically the Blu-ray DVD version, because it sounded like there was slightly more special features on the back. And while the movie didn't live up to my hopes, I'm curious of checking out the director's cut to see what that might say, but not really holding my breath too much, because I don't really think they can really change the way the ending of the series worked. This Sunday, we're going to watch Cabin in the Woods, so I bought Cabin in the Woods. And then some people thought that I should check out Big Bang Theory, thinking it would be something I would really enjoy. So far, it's not exactly up my alley, but it's not so bad that I can't continue watching it to find out if it doesn't improve on that metric. But those aren't as important as the good old anime. I guess it wasn't that much anime I watched. I guess because I finished Mega Man Legends, went back and did some more stuff in there, and fired up Mega Man Legends 2, which overall was pretty interesting. Because Mega Man Legends 2 plays with controls somewhat similar to what I would have wanted from the first one, although there's one minor issue where I would have preferred if left and right behaved the opposite for the right analog joystick. For some reason, I can't quite put my finger on it, but my hands wanted to do that. It doesn't. And so far, Mega Man Legends 2 has been interesting. You can tell they're pushing the hardware hard when you get some non-actiony scenes that get rather laggy in one particular town, at least near the beginning. But I've not continued going there for a while, mostly because there was some anime. Well, I guess actually this is probably some. What was I doing? Okay. So, I've only watched 3 things now, of course, since I'm doing the late update again. One of those things was more Haruhi Suzumiya with my brother. We ended up spending a lot of time talking outside and not exactly giving ourselves enough time to come in here and finish the Melancholy of Haruhi Suzumiya. So we covered the side of Haruhi Suzumiya and then the episode 00 and the Art Festival episode. And it was all entertaining. Something about the side of Haruhi Suzumiya feels a little off to me, and I can't quite exactly put it, but it's still entertaining. A lot of this, though, is just me preparing to work my brother into the disappearance of Haruhi Suzumiya, which hopefully will be next week, unless we decide that 2 episodes plus a movie is too much. We'll play that by ear. So the 2 things I watched, one of those was the first 12 episodes of Steins Gate, and this was one of those things where I'm not quite sure if I can say spectacular, mostly because I would say that it kept my attention real well, to the point where I definitely was going to push watching as much of it as I could, even though we started a little late. So we ended up finishing it at about 3 in the morning, and with the person I was watching it with, of course. And then, he immediately left because it was like 2 hours later that he goes, Daddy can stay, but he was going to stay and watch it all too. So it's a very compelling to watch thing. And after that, I kind of curled up into a ball in my bed and didn't have a very rested night. It was pretty sleepless, as in something about that first half of the series kind of instilled a very persistent but subtle terror that I don't quite know how to explain, especially not without accidentally spoiling things in Steins Gate. And at the same time, so much thought-provokingness about it that I guess I was pretty much a zombie the next day. That combined with the strange sleep-related stuff. So it was all a very interesting experience. And overall, I'd say Steins Gate was pretty good. If you've ever watched Chaos Head, that feeling is... Sorry, I shouldn't have left this in that state. One thing I noticed while watching Steins Gate is that it felt like Chaos Head in a lot of ways. And it was really hard to exactly place why. The main characters are obviously pretty different people. But there was something reminiscent about a whole lot of it. I mean, the way things were presented, the way characters are kind of present, this underlying feeling of terror that was in there that Steins Gate did a much more efficient job of getting under my skin for. And based on its high rating, I'm going to guess that unlike Chaos Head, Steins Gate is probably not going to drop the ball in the second half. Again, Chaos Head started making too much sense and pretty much became a completely different kind of anime than what it was at the very beginning, where it fell into something far more stereotypical, which necessarily wouldn't have been so bad, but I think kind of hampered it because then Chaos had these dualities. It probably should have chosen to be one thing or the other. And maybe Steins Gate is the properly choosing of the being of the one thing, or maybe not. I won't know. And all I know is the release for Steins Gate Part 2 was at least December 11th. I've heard that maybe that's been delayed. And I'm hoping it hasn't been delayed too much. Because I'm rather curious. Although right now I guess I'm not feeling it simply because for some reason I almost feel like I'm repressing some feelings from it. The other thing I watched, before I get too much into Steins Gate again, is Resident Evil Damnation. And that is the CGI sequel to Resident Evil Degeneration. And I have to say that I actually agree with its higher rating, where the way the director put it, one of his goals in Damnation was to finally, within the context of the Resident Evil series, not within the context of the live-action movies that I stopped paying attention to after 3. So I think there's a 5th one in theaters now, maybe? But those aside, the more game-related CGI movies, Degeneration was pretty decent. And Damnation, it starts out kind of feeling like your stereotypical CGI movie. I don't even know how to explain it. You just have that feeling. You're watching it and you're like, yeah, there's something about this that's your stereotypical CGI movie. And it's hard to explain exactly what it is, and there's nothing about it particularly spectacular, so overall I'd call it its beginning as mediocre, but in the grand scheme of things, it properly starts setting up so that midway through you start seeing some of what the director was trying to do, namely finally using the biological weapons for war, which is what Umbrella Corporation's always been developing them for. And it pretty much kept going and building up until it ended up in a spectacular final climax, final climactic showdown, basically. And I guess the best way to describe it is, my place in Resident Evil is I barely played the games. I was more of a Silent Hill person. I watched my brothers play through the first games, particularly the GameCube remake, a couple times, and maybe I've seen them play through 2 and 3, or maybe only bits and pieces of 2 and 3. They kind of blur together in my mind, and I played a bit of 4 on my own. So my basic position within the series was, finding the stuff that happened in the first 3 games to be pretty interesting. And then when number 4 started to talk about Las Plagas, not too bad with it, but kind of wondering why, and that's about it. So, with even those little pieces of Resident Evil interest, something inside me squealed with delight at watching Resident Evil Damnation. And I think I could explain it, but I don't want to because it would be so spoilerific. But I thought it was actually pretty awesome. Maybe not like everybody would like it awesome, but definitely better than Degeneration, which I thought was pretty decent. So overall, a fairly impressive Resident Evil movie. I actually that one I kind of actually want to start showing other people if I can. So other than that, I haven't been paying attention to what releases are going to be coming out these next couple weeks. So complicated somehow, and I don't remember how, and I think that's part of the complication. But pretty soon I will be taking my car in to get the AC fixed, which is the last thing to do. And a part of me was thinking I would continue this spree of not catching up on all anime for a little while longer to also create an opportunity to start talking some exercise stuff. Because, I do need to work off some of this weight. It's not exactly healthy. I'm getting pretty close to 30. Gotta think long term if I want to watch anime for a long time or something silly. Truth of the matter is, the only reason I don't do a lot of exercise is because I don't really believe in going out of my way to put myself in a lifestyle I don't enjoy. So my goal is to set up to watch anime on the television in there, probably put the laptop on here so I have access to the internet, and have a little workout center in there. And then seeing where I can go from there mentally, and just, yeah. So, my thoughts there are buying that stuff in January, although at the same time, it's not a hard limit. Working on the car is important, obviously. Getting that out of the way is important. This other stuff is also important, but I admit not that important. So we don't know if things will shake and I'll import a random thing or catch up on a random old title or something. So there we go. I think that's the update on everything. And I don't even know what's coming out next week. I feel like I'm flying blind, and it's kind of fun. So, I guess the usual shout out to the DVD collection people who stayed up late enough at night and are able to see this. That would be Charles, JFS, Oz Shadow, and Stalk Like Corn. They're saying woo, shout outs, and hey YouTube. So, yo, y'all, and y'all have a nice week.